So we have a new guest on the podcast today, and it is a Sheffield Sharks captain, Mike Took. Welcome to the And1 Podcast, Mike.
Thanks for having me, man. Really happy to be on.
Thanks. First of all, I just want to say congratulations on the 1-year contract extension with the Sharks. How does it feel?
Yeah, it feels great, man. Obviously, I was the first signing to be announced. This will be my 12th year with the Sharks. And just saying 12 years, I can't believe I'm going into my 12th year with the Sharks. Time has just absolutely flown. But yeah, I'm really excited to still be playing basketball and still be suiting up and getting another chance at basketball, especially after the way the season ended for us this past season.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So do you know when the season will be starting again? Do they have an official date or anything?
Nothing official yet, nothing concrete, but I think that they're aiming to start pretty much on time. It'll probably be a couple weeks late, so I think it's going to be looking around mid-October, but we should have more clarity on that within the coming weeks, along with like government guidelines, etc.
Oh, that's perfect. And then since this is your first time on the podcast, the thing that we always like to ask first-time guests is to tell the listeners how they got into basketball. Could you tell us how you got into basketball?
So yeah, I mean, I got into basketball probably about 9 or 10 years old, and I was always that kid in the class that was the tallest kid. You know, the class photo, I was always the one standing beside the teacher at the side. So I think my dad realized that very quickly, and you know, he decided that he was going to put me into basketball, and it really all kind of took off from there. You know, the first time I touched the court, I was in love with it, and I fell in love with the game. My dad started taking me down to things like the Harlem Globetrotters, and they did the World Championships in Toronto, I think in 90, it was either 92 or 94, so I got to see like USA play Canada and all these different games, and it really, really grew on me, and from then on I was hooked. And my dad had put up a hoop in my driveway, and you know, I was out there in the hot sun of the Toronto summers to, you know, the middle of winter. I would get out there and shovel snow and have my gloves on just so I could get shots up in the middle of the winter. So, and that's how I got into it. And then from there, you know, I just built on it. We started playing in little house local leagues around my town, and then kind of got recruited to go to the high school I went to, and then recruited to go to college, and you know, it all blew up, and decided I want to go pro. And you know, here I am all these years later, and I've played in a few different countries, and I've had a 12-year career here in Sheffield in the BBL, so it's been good.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Like, I wish, because I'm pretty tall myself, not as tall as the average height of the NBA, but I just wish I got into basketball when I was so much younger, because in the UK now, it's getting bigger and bigger, but I think back then, when I was in primary school, secondary school, it wasn't that big, so it was just all football, and that's it. Like, I wish I got into basketball much earlier, because I've just started playing it recently, and it's just a sport that I love playing. Just wish I started playing much sooner.
Yeah, I think that's one thing I've definitely noticed in England, is that the pathways aren't always there for young players, and a lot of kids are just driven into more traditional English sports like football, cricket, or rugby. Basketball is kind of an afterthought, but basketball is definitely on the rise. But I think that's the key in any country, is you start the kids young in a sport, and then you know, you have a bigger following from a younger age. And you know, there's a lot of guys that have come out of England that I know that didn't even start playing until they were, you know, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 years old. So it's never too late to pick up a ball, but it's definitely, you get a head start on everyone if you start younger.
Yeah, I agree. And then, so with the pandemic, we just saw all the sports stop, including the NBA and the BBL season. The NBA is due to return at the end of the month now. But then there's still the health concerns, especially in the US, where it just seems like the cases are just rising. And especially where the players are going to play in Florida. So some players, for example, Avery Bradley and DeAndre Jordan, have just said that they're not going to participate. Like, as a player yourself, like, how would you feel if the BBL season was set to resume at the end of the month?
I would have mixed feelings about it. As a player, you know, when the season was stopped, we all kind of felt like something was taken away from us. And you know, basketball is what we do. It's our livelihood. It's how we make a living. But it's also the love of the game. And when somebody takes that away from you and you don't have any control of that, you don't feel in control. It just kind of hurt. Now getting it back is amazing, and I know that I would be chomping at the bit to get back out there on that floor. I can't wait to get back into a gym and get shots up and start playing. But at the same time, there's that thing in the back of your head where you're constantly worried about this virus. Guys don't want to catch it, and I think that's the big thing with the NBA right now is that we look at, they're heading towards the end of July when they're supposed to start these games. We've seen cases already crop up in Denver and with the Los Angeles Clippers where they've had to shut down their practice facilities already. This is just a lingering problem that doesn't look like it's going to be going away. And we've seen players catch this early on, like guys like Gobert and Donovan Mitchell. What's going to happen when we get into these bubbles and somebody catches it? And, it's not just like a Gobert or Mitchell, but it's like a LeBron James or a Giannis Antetokounmpo. What if those guys are, catching the disease? Then it's going to be really more of a problem, more of an issue. And I think that's going to be the uphill battle that the NBA is going to have to take on. And there is no answers right now. Nobody knows how to handle this. We've never really had to deal with anything on this kind of scale before. It's going to be interesting to see if they can control it, and how it's all going to work within these bubbles.
Yeah, I agree. I think, it's just seeing how it's just going to play out, to be honest. I think the NBA are just they're doing what they need to do, like testing players regularly, making sure that their social distance is being adhered to, they're keeping players in the bubble and everything. But yeah, like you said, like if a player like LeBron James catches it or Giannis Antetokounmpo, like what is going to happen then? But yeah, like we just have to play the waiting game now and just see how it goes.
It's going to be a PR nightmare, that's for sure.
Exactly, yeah. And also, like, how would it impact just playing in front of no crowds, like have for players? Because at the moment, there's going to be no fans in the stadium, in the arenas and everything. So how would that impact? Do you think playing in front of no crowds?
I think that's going to play a huge part. For me as a player, that is such a big part of the game and your mentality coming into the game. And it's running out of that locker room or running down that tunnel into the arena, and you hear that noise of the crowd, that rumble of the crowd, and when you're playing at home, you have that home crowd behind you. Every shot that you hit, your fans are cheering you on. When you're playing away, you feel that energy from the away fans, and you can feed off that energy. And that's such a huge thing that goes into, I guess, the mentality and the mindset and the kind of the sports psychology of it all. It's going to be a lot different, and I think it's going to compare a lot to the NBA summer leagues, where you watch NBA summer league games. They're usually, there's a few people in the crowd, but it's not like it's like an NBA game where you've got 17, 18, 19,000 people in an arena. So those games in the summer, it looks more like a rec league or a pickup game. And the other thing you can kind of look at is the Premier League and how they've been playing in big empty stadiums. And it just doesn't feel like the same energy is there. And everyone watching it from home, like you just don't get that same vibe. That being said, obviously I'm going to be tuning in, and everybody who's an NBA fan or a basketball fan is going to be tuning in. But it's whether that product on the floor is going to be the same. A lot of players have been opting out, and the energy in those gyms isn't going to be exactly the same. So is the product on the floor going to be at its best? I don't know, but I know one thing, that I will still be tuning in.